sure our kirtaniers are happy. And everyone that's hearing the kirtan is becoming happy. Not just because they're happy, but our Yuga Dharma is being shared with others. Let's see what happens with the construction that's going on in front of us. Have they decided to just hold off till we finish, or I doubt it? I want to share something at the beginning here. Just have to find it. Yeah. Okay. Yesterday evening, we discussed the obstacles that Hanuman encountered when crossing the sea to get to Lanka and to find Sita and beyond, like dealing with Ravana. Very, very intelligent, very, very fearless obstacles. So I wanted to repeat a verse. I asked Nityananda Pran to check the verse, the Sanskrit and the English translation, for Hanuman poised, crouched on top of Mahendra mountain, ready to chant his japa for the day. That's because that's one of our challenges. You have to prepare yourself. You can't just automatically pick up your bead bag and somehow you're in the spiritual world. I mean, that would be nice, but it's a little more than that. Attentiveness and focus and mission. So here's the verse. Was it sent? Did you receive the verse? Oh, you received it. Oh, isn't that nice? But here's the verse. Translation. Just like an arrow released by Raghava would fly, I too will proceed with the speed of the wind to reach Lanka, ruled by Ravana. Of course, our destination is a little different than reaching the kingdom of Lanka, ruled by Ravana. But the consciousness of being ready to meet the challenges of our distracted mind and all other things, it's a nice meditation. There's many nice meditations. That's one of many. As you begin preparing yourself to enter into the primary means of our elevation and purification. And here we are. It took a while to get up that, not just hill, but mountain. I didn't know, this is my first time here. Up and up and up and up. It was like getting in an airplane and going beyond 30,000 feet to 35,000 feet, 39,000 feet, and then you keep going. It's a big mountain we're on top of. It's the one of four, but amongst the four, the principal headquarters of Adi Sankaracharya. And one might wonder, what are we doing here? I thought a lot about it, just whether even we should come here or not. Although, how can you not? On the other hand, how can you? Because we're Vaishnavas and there's such strong distinction between Vaishnava teachings and Adi Sankaracharya. They're polar opposite. Theism and atheism. Literally atheism. How can we... Then I read a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 2. And I'm going to show you the verse, and we'll go through it, because it's part of the reason why we're here. It's a major reason why we're here. It's a major reason why I decided we should come here. So the painting is a nice painting. On the right side, of course, is incarnation of the Supreme Lord, instructing his 100 sons, along with many others in the assembly, on how to conduct their lives. Of course, the eldest and foremost was Bharat Maharaj. But included in this assembly were the Nava Yogendras. We heard and saw this painting of the Nava Yogendras giving instruction to King Nimi. Those are 9 of the 100 sons. They heard the same instructions. Some other of the sons became Kshatriyas, some other of the sons became Brahmanas, and 9 of them went beyond the Varnashram system, the Nava Yogendras. So in this instruction, Canto 5, Chapter 5, here's the second verse. Very familiar for those that have read Prabhupada's books and heard his recorded lectures. You know the verse. Mahatsevam dwaram ahor vimuktes, tamo dwaram yoshitam sangi sangam. So look closely at the Sanskrit, and I defy you to find the Sanskrit equivalent of that line that's in colors. One can attain the path of liberation from material bondage only by rendering service to highly advanced spiritual personalities. Okay, that's the first line. Ahor vimuktes. It's the dwaram for mukti, or ahor vimuktes. What is that? Mahat sevam. So what Prabhupada is doing in the next line is he's taking this mahat sevam and indicating who are those mahats. Who's a mahat? You know the verse from Bhagavad Gita, who's the Mahatma? Daivim prakritim ashrata, Mahatmanas tamam partha, Daivim prakritim ashrata. That's a Mahatma. Daivim prakritim ashrata. We all know the verse. Most of us know the verse. So that's Bhagavad Gita, Krishna's definition of who is a Mahatma. Very simple. Daivim prakritim. Taking shelter of the spiritual potency. Now here in this translation, and then it's detailed in the purport, that Mahat Sevam just expanded. It's the personalists and impersonalists. The personalists and the impersonalists. These personalities are both impersonalists and devotees. So there's the rest of the translation of the first 2 lines. Whether one wants to merge into the existence of the Lord's existence or wants to associate with the personality of Godhead, one should render service to the Mahatmas. So, why are we here? Well, it starts with all living entities except Sankaracharya, we should be respectful to. Right? All living entities we should be respectful to except Sankaracharya and his followers. That's not what the teaching says. Samoham sarva bhuteshu nadme dveshosti napriyaha. And like Krishna, we should follow. See with equal vision, pandita samadarshana. So how are you going to do that? When the person speaks atheism, how are you going to do that? So you have to see beyond the behavior and see the soul within. And in the character, in the second session today, up here on this mountain, Sringeri Mat, we're going to hear a compare and contrast. Where are the similarities? Where are the dissimilarities? There are similarities between the followers, those who are true followers of Shankara's teachings have characteristics that are similar to Vaishnava characteristics. That's where respect goes. Then there's differences, and that has to do with the teaching, but we separate the teachings from the person. If you don't separate teachings from the person, you're not going to see with equal vision. Pandita samadarshana. There's certainly differences. Vidya vanaya sampane. What's the next line? Vidya vanaya sampane brahmani gavi hastani. Those are different. And swapakacha, those who are dog eaters, a dog and a dog eater. Equal vision. The behaviors are different, for sure. The embodiments are different. The behaviors are different. There's differences. So how do you have the samadarshana? You have to be a transcendentalist. If you're not a transcendentalist, you're going to, I like this, I don't like that. Now, we'll hear some more in the second session, but I just wanted to start on this note, why we're here. We're not only to respect all living entities, even an ant. We respect all living entities, including those who are in this category of aspiring to merge with the Supreme. The living entity is to be respected, but not only respected, according to the verse, it's render service to the great souls. They're in the category of great souls. I invite you, we'll do maybe in the second session, we'll look at the verse again. And Prabhupada's explanation of Mahat, kind of like expanding the definition from Krishna's definition. We already heard this, and what is the Parashram Kshetra? That's this whole region going from Goa and Karnataka and down Kerala. There were two important acharyas, very important acharyas, Sankaracharya and Madhvacharya. And we've heard already, to some degree, the life of Madhvacharya. Now we're going to hear something about Sankaracharya and who he was and why he did what he did. So first, what's the reference literature? First of all, the life of Sankaracharya didn't have biographies during his life. Mainly, the biographies were written quite some time after his life. There are 10 well-known biographies of his life, written many centuries after his life. However, foremost amongst them was this particular literature, Sankaracharya Digvijay of Madhava Vidyaranya. So that's mainly what we're referencing from, because the other 9 have different details, which is kind of to be expected. If you're going to be an author, you can't just write the same thing that a previous author wrote. It has to be some divergence. This particular individual that we're referencing from, he was in the court of the Vijayanagara kings in the 14th century. He retired from his political life. He came here to Sringeri Math. He did assiduous study on details of the life of Sankaracharya, and he wrote this book that we're primarily referencing, and some details we'll mention from some of the other sources. Very interesting. Here's a little quick timeline of his life. He lived for 32 years. Often Prabhupada would speak about that. That's not a long time. There's a few people here that are older than 32. And he lived for 32 years. And he did what he did in 32 years. So here's the timeline. Here's the place of his birth, Kaladi in Kerala. At the age of 8, he took sannyas. He left home and accepted sannyas. Later, not too much later, he met his sannyas Paramahansa Guru. That means he took a preliminary sannyas, and then he met his Paramahansa Guru, sannyas Guru. I hope you caught that. And the Guru's name was Govindapada. We'll hear something about him. And it was along the bank of the Narmada River, about 2,000 kilometers away from where he was born when he was a young man. At the age of 12, there's some young people here around the age of 12. By the age of 12, he had already mastered all the Vedas. And in a span of 4 years, his guru declared that he was directly Lord Shiva, ready to make commentaries on the scriptures that he now knew thoroughly at the age of 12. At the age of 12. And from his birth, we'll hear some more. From his birth chart said that he would live 8 years. He was given some extra years just by the words of one great sage, Agastya. You can have another 8 years because you got a lot of important work to do in writing scriptures, writing commentary on scriptures. So 8 became 16. And then Vyasadeva extended the 16 to 32. He stopped his commentaries by the time he was 16, and from 16 to 32, he was busy not spreading Krishna consciousness, spreading, the opposite of Krishna consciousness, and very effectively. This is the 16 to 32. Length and breadth of India. And so what was the mission? We'll hear, but the mission was, he was particularly requested, restore faith in the Vedas. Because before he did that, Lord Buddha had become very prominent and he trashed the Vedas. And he established another doctrine without reference to any Vedas. So Sankaracharya's mandate was to correct that. He had another mandate, bewilder the mind of people, which he was very good at, by creating explanations of the Vedas that were incomprehensible. And he did it. And it worked. It was very effective for a long time. Hundreds of years, and still today. And there were 4 mats. These is just the quick timeline. North, south, east, and west, and this happens to be the west. Sringeri Mat. The north, we already heard a little bit about. That was in Dwarka. One of his principal sannyasis was from this area, amongst the Shivali Brahmana area around Udupi, and he was sent by Sankaracharya to be the head of one of his 4 mats in Dwarka, and then the area around the Shivali Brahmana area, or Kerala and Karnataka, was his GBC zone. And he was very effective. And then subsequently following him, very effective. And people were influenced. They weren't prepared. They weren't clear enough and strong enough and Vaishnava enough. They were Vaishnava. Their heart hadn't changed so much, but the external started to waffle and become blurry. That's when Madhava came and corrected that situation with some difficulty. So this is a nice map of India, and it's showing that little red line where he traveled during those 16 years with principal places. And on the chart on the right shows the list of the places. He was very active for 16 years. So back to his birth. When he was born, the birth chart said he'll live for 8 years. Agastya, we're going to hear some details, but Agastya Muni visited the home of Sankaracharya when he was very young, just before he was 8, just before he accepted sannyas at 8. And along with 4 other sages. And at that time, Agastya extended his life. Just voila. The stars had to move or something like that. He extended his life by 8 years because he understood he has important work to do. And he's going to need some time to do it. So he extended his life by 8 years, up to 16 years. And the purpose was writing his commentaries on the Vedas. Agastya wanted that, and so it was. Later, Vyasadeva, this is Sankaracharya, made a visit to Badri, just like we heard that Madhvacharya visited Badri, or Upper Badri, so Vyasadeva also was visited by Sankaracharya. And he understood, same reason, because the Vedas had been trashed, or just neglected, or trashed, or both. And Vyasa was the compiler of the Vedas, so he wanted the Vedas to rise again in prominence and acceptance, knowing, of course, that the interpretation was a misleading interpretation, but he extended his life by another 16 years. This is what these biographies consistently say, and establishing Advaita Vedanta. So let's go back, besides the little gloss of his life and chronology. his advent. The town that he was born in was Kaladi. And here's a map showing where it is. Kaladi is in a certain district of Kerala, along the banks of the river Purna. Sankaracharya made his appearance. Here's the house, whoops, on the right side, that's the house where he appeared. And the next photograph is where his mother and father went to offer prayers to Lord Shiva to beget a son, both mother and father. Now, this is the structure. This is an older version of the structure. And here's a newer version of the same structure. This is during a certain festival called the Onam festival, decorated with flowers up on the roof and in front. And there's another festival that's even more spectacular. There's a certain festival where there's Utsav Murtis from 10, count those elephants. There's 10 elephants. The Utsav Murtis from 10 nearby temples are placed on the backs of elephants. They have an elephant procession. And it's a big, big, big festival and music and rituals and so forth. And in the background, that's the temple where the parents of Sankaracharya went to worship Lord Shiva. Well, the temple wasn't there when his parents were there. The place where the deity of Lord Shiva was under a tree. And this is commemorating the spot where the deity of Lord Shiva was. And it's near the place where the temple is, today's temple. So here's a nice painting of his mother and father. His father's name was Shiva Guru. His mother's name was Arambha. And in the background is a painting of the deity of Lord Shiva that they offered prayers to beget a qualified son. They were qualified brahmanas, very strict brahmanas, and as a result of their worship, again and again and again, one evening Lord Shiva appeared to Shiva Guru in a dream, and very interestingly, Lord Shiva, this is now from the biography, Lord Shiva offered his father, Shiva Guru, a blessing. What blessing would you like? I want a son. Shiva agreed. Very well, you'll have a son, but you need to make a choice. What's that? Here's the two choices. One, you'll have a son who is all-knowing, virtuous, but short-lived. Or your son will live a long time, but he's not especially virtuous or especially great. Which do you want, one or two? And he said, I want one. Because he wanted not just a son, but he wanted a qualified son. So if he lives a short time, that's okay. Qualified son. So it was. He shared with his wife what transpired in his dream. And his wife fully accepted Lord Shiva's word. He fully accepted Lord Shiva's word. And in due course of time, his wife, Aryamba, became pregnant. Now, this is the biography says that her womb was charged with the spirit of Lord Shiva. Devatas rained flowers to honor the appearance of Lord Shiva. When he was born, in addition to saying he's going to live for 8 years, which was consistent with what Lord Shiva's condition was, they read his horoscope and concluded, according to this biography, this child will grow into a scholar capable of defeating any opponent in debate. He will be the promulgator of a new philosophy, kind of like this question came up. And in Bangalore, we discussed this topic also. He wasn't the first one. He systematized it in such a way that the ribbon and the bows and the wrapping was a little different, but what was inside wasn't different. You know, the idea of the absolute truth is one isn't a new idea. It's right in Bhagavad Gita. He will gain recognition as a master of all learning. His reputation will last for as long as the world lasts. So don't think that you can eliminate his fame. His fame and his reputation, and likely also his teachings, will last a long time. Not just here, but all over the world. Impersonalism is not new, and it's not likely to fade quickly. This child will indeed be a perfect man. What more can we say? That's the astrologer. So now they have a son with these two astrological forecasts, and they gave him, his father gave him the name Sri Sankaracharya. That was his name from birth. And the meanings, the etymology is Kara, Shankara, he's the bestower of happiness. Sankara or Shankara should be Sham. Happiness to all. Or another meaning, derived meaning, is that he was born by Lord Shiva's grace, thus Sankaracharya. And where he was born, the year he was born, and the circumstances under which he was born, these different biographies all have different accounts, and we're not going to go through the different accounts. If you like, you can. There's more. So he's born, and up until he was 8 years old, which is when the astrological chart said he would die, he exhibited uncommon, Lord Shiva-like uncommon behaviors and pastimes. Here's one. Those of you that are parents, think about this for a minute. When he was 1 year old, he could speak languages, not just Google, Gaga, and babble. Languages, plural. 1 year old. When he was 2 years old, he recited scriptures and had become a master in the Puranas and the Kavyas. Kavyas means poetic writings. 2. Not human. He mastered the 4 Vedas. He's still 2. He hasn't turned 3 yet. He mastered the 4 Vedas along with their auxiliary branches without any instructions. Without any instructions. He hasn't gone to school, doesn't have a teacher. He's reciting the Vedas and can explain them without a teacher at 2. That's not human. Then he turns 3. When he turned 3, his father left this world. So it's just him and his mother. And for 1 year, there were rituals that were observed, and he observed the rituals for 1 year. 3 to 4. When he turned 5 years, his mother understood that this son is very exceptional. So she made an arrangement for suitable brahmanas, that's what this illustration is meant to show, where he received upanayana at the age of 5. And upanayana meant he did all the rituals and Gayatri mantras and and so forth and so on. Now he's received his Gayatri mantra, Upanayana. He's now going to school. And he already knows the Vedas. He recited them and explained them before he went to school, and now he's going to school. And everyone was astonished, the students and the teachers, plural. This child is not normal. He's exceptional. He's extraordinary. And the other students couldn't keep up with him. Within 2 to 3 months, he mastered everything that his teacher had to teach him. Poor teacher, or fortunate teacher, however you want to look at it. And it wasn't just, the 4 Vedas. The 4 Vedas, and then all the rituals, Nyaya, Yoga philosophy, Sankhya, Mimamsa, in 2 to 3 months. So he's now 5 years, 3 months old, and he's graduated. Whew. While he was in school, still a young boy, 5 years old, still in school, he composed a prayer, a stotra, Kanakadhara stotra. The circumstance was he and a co-student with him, they were going door to door on behalf of their teacher accepting alms. And he happened to go in one place where the resident was a poor Brahmana family. So the quality lady of the house, the Brahmani, she understood how important and how fortunate it was to give alms to a student, but she was so poor, she could hardly offer anything. So all that she had in the house was gooseberries. So we had this lively discussion in Bangalore temple. What's a gooseberry? Now I looked it up, and according to Wikipedia, it's amalaki fruit. And then there was a devotee in the audience that didn't like that answer. He says amala fruit. We did ping pong match for about 5 minutes, and it was gooseberry, amalaki, or amla. Take your pick. That's all she had. So she gave some gooseberries. That's because that's the English translation. But you know what amla fruits are. They're small. That's used in Ayurvedic medicine. It's a nice thing. So she was embarrassed. So he felt sorry that she and some others in that area were just poor. So he, 5-year-old boy, composed a stotra to Goddess Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune, and prayed to Goddess of Lakshmi through the stotra that this family should get relief from their poverty. 5-year-old boy, Goddess Lakshmi appeared before him. Responding to this beautiful hymn, she manifested directly before him. He paid obeisances to her. And then she said, this couple can't be the object of my mercy or attention because they haven't done any past meritorious acts. And they must have done something because she's wanting to give charity to a Brahmana. She's trained. She must have done some. But here's what Sankaracharya, according to this biography, he said, "Oh, mother, they have made a gift of gooseberry fruit to me. If you are pleased with me, you're to bestow on them the reward for this gift of theirs." So the pious merit was she gave what she had. Lakshmi was very pleased with that answer. And so the remaining gooseberries in the house all became gold. I don't know how many gooseberries she had in the house, but they all became gold. So the family was very happy. They got the blessings of Sankaracharya in the form of gold. So now, it said he mastered his studies in 2 or 3 months, but he stayed with the teacher until he was 7. because there's an event that comes at the end of his schooling, just before he turned 8. Here's what happened. His mother was blessing him. He was very faithful because his father is gone. It's just he and his mother. So having mastered all the Vedas, he returned home, and his mother received him very happily, and he was engaged in service of his mother and in his own continuing to study the Vedas and doing his rituals, because he was a Brahmana, doing the rituals that Brahmanas are to do. Fire yajna twice a day, and all the other rituals that were part of Brahminical life. In this biography, it said he was such a virtuous personality, even as a young boy, that when people saw him, his peers gave up, the feistiness that young boys sometimes have when they get together. Now, our ISKCON devotees don't have that situation because they're all very nice. But other young boys sometimes get a little competitive and wrestle and aggressive a little bit, and so they gave it all up, just being in his presence. Sometimes boys get angry, somebody does something, says something, so they gave it all up, just in his presence. His character was already being felt, directly being displayed by his peers, and then there were adults who looked at this little boy, and they all offered their respect to this little boy, just because his presence was like that. It inspired them to do like that. Now he's back home, he's 7, and every day he would go to take bath in the nearby river, the Purna River, and his mother also would go to take bath in the Purna River, but on one day, due to much austerity, as she was walking to the river, she fainted and fell to the ground. Shankara noticed his mother was gone for a long time, so he went to find her. There she was, fainted on the ground. He revived her. He managed to bring her back to their home. And then he went to the bank of the river and offered a prayer to the river, because rivers are personified. And the prayer that he offered was, please change your course so that you're a tributary of your flow, the Purna River flow, can be much closer to my mother's home. The next morning, the river, not just a tributary, the river changed its course. So it flowed nearby her home, so she wouldn't have difficulty taking her bath every day. Kind of a miracle. Rivers don't just change course overnight like that. He's still 7. He's finished school. The king, the local king, heard about this little boy. This just amazing personality. So he sent a messenger to his home, to the boy's home, Sankaracharya's home, King of Kerala, with an invitation, please come pay a visit. The minister, carrying the message of the king, came with a whole group of elephant procession to his home. And when he arrived at the boy's home, he said, no thanks. That I'm a brahmachari and I don't leave my duties. And besides that, I'm not attracted to elephant rides or invitations from kings. Thanks, but no thanks. When the king heard this, the king himself, king of Kerala, came to the 7-year-old boy's home just to get his audience. And when he came to his home and he saw the quality and character of Sankaracharya, he was wowed. And one of his missions was he wanted this 7-year-old boy, the king of Kerala wanted a 7-year-old boy to hear his recitation of 3 dramas that he had written. And the little boy, Sri Sankaracharya, thought they were very nice dramas. And so Sri Sankaracharya offered a benediction to the king, anything you want. 7-year-old boy to the king. And the king said, I want a son like you. That's one thing I want. And Sankaracharya said, yes, my blessings, you'll have a son like me. And first you must perform the Putreshti, same yagya that Rishishringa performed. You must perform that particular yagya, then you'll have a qualified son like me. And so the king of Kerala went back to his palace feeling very happy. Doesn't say what happened after that, but he apparently had a qualified son. Now, the young boy is serving his mother, as was the custom and culture and proper, but he has this growing detachment, wanting to become a sannyasi, from brahmachari to sannyasi. While he is staying at home for days and days and days, he continued his duties. He's a very nice young Brahmin boy. With attention and humility, he did all his duties. Looks like he's worshiping the Tulsi Devi with incense and flowers, etc. He understood the mood of his mother, because remember, the mother is without her husband and he's without his father. She has the desire, as many mothers might have, that her son get married to a nice girl and that they have nice children and she would have grandchildren and live happily ever after. All you have to have is some grandchildren, you live happily ever after, right? No problem. Before he turned 8, here's these 4 sages' names: Upamanyu, Dadichi, Gautama, and Agastya. They not only came to their village, they came right to their house. And he and his mother served them very nicely. They paid their obeisances, did everything to make their visit nice. And the sages, seeing the spiritual acumen of this young boy, they began giving instructions. That's very, very natural. That's their best of gifts. So particularly during this visit, Agastya reminded her that your son will have a short lifespan. 8 was it. And she, remembering what the horoscope said from childhood, from birth, she became filled with anxiety. At the same time, then Agastya went on expressing this young boy is capable of writing wonderful commentaries on the Vedas that Vyasadeva wrote down. He can write commentaries on them. So I personally bestow upon your son another 8 years, Agastya. And he went on making further predictions about the rest of his childhood, the rest of his life. The other sages didn't want him to talk so much. So they got up with a signal saying, stop talking. That's one that's going like this, that's one of the four sages, and the standing one that's meant to indicate Agastya Muni. So the mother was very encouraged. The words of Agastya shocked Aryamba, and this, he's the reminder that he's going to die at 8, and now he's going to die at 16, and she has no husband, and she wanted her son to get married. So apparently, it wasn't so uncommon that young boys would get married, and even before they're 20 or so, like 16 is before 20, that he would have children. So a grandchild, if it was a son, could help her and perform the last rites. Sankaracharya wasn't inclined. He stayed at home to comfort his mother, but his thoughts were going to becoming a renunciate, a sannyasi. Then there was a particular incident, the crocodile incident, that precipitated this. So he continued not liking worldly life, but being very faithful and submissive and respectful to his mother, knowing that his mother wouldn't give permission, and he looked up to his mother in a very special way. Like a guru, he needed to get her blessing. So how to get her blessing when she's going to say no? So he got very clever. One day, when going to the river for taking his bath, something happened. A crocodile started chomping on his leg, and he called out to his mother. And his mother came running, and her mother couldn't even see the body of the child. She saw the tail of the crocodile and just the head of her son. She started wailing and crying. So Sankaracharya called out to his mother, saying, "Just give me permission to take sannyas, and the crocodile will leave me alone." So she's an innocent lady. I give permission, I give permission. As soon as she said that, the crocodile went away. Very clever. In case you want to have your mother give you permission to take sannyas, you can imitate Sankaracharya. So now back at home, he is saying to his mother, "I am your son and servant. Tell me what this new sannyasi, sannyasi candidate, but this new sannyasi should do. I shall certainly follow your command. Our relatives will certainly give you comfort." And she said, "By some divine intervention, I've already given you permission to take sannyas, but I desire very much that you should perform my last rites when I leave my body." So Sankaracharya replied, and she can have another son because she doesn't have a husband. He consoled her this way: "Whenever you desire my presence by your side, be it in sickness or in health," sounds like a wedding bell, "be it during the day or night, I shall certainly come to your side, and on your death," he kept his word, "I shall come and cremate your body. By your sending me away with your blessing, you will derive 100-fold more benefit of great merit than by keeping me by your side." Now he's still living at home with his mother. He hasn't left for taking sannyas yet. But there's one very miraculous incident that took place. Remember that the course of the river, Purna River, had shifted to be close to their home. But not only was close to their home, but there was a Krishna deity in a Krishna temple where this new course of the Purna River was causing a problem for the temple. In fact, there was frequent floods, and the temple wall started eroding. Sankaracharya came to hear about it, and he took permission from his mother. The deity of Krishna spoke to Sankaracharya and said, since you changed the course of the river, I'm in danger, so I can't stay here anymore. So what did he do? He didn't change the course of the river back again. He changed the location of the temple. He relocated the deity to a safe place, far from the flow of the river. So very shortly, he's going to accept sannyas order. Here's a little description of the three main reasons why, or that prompted him to take sannyas. First, he was already very renounced, intense renunciation spirit. There was a revelation by Agastya that he had more service to do, which would be suited if he was a sannyasi. And his mother had already gave him permission. Had already given him permission. So he sets out from home. Now remember, I mentioned he took sannyas quickly, but now he's going to go searching for his Paramahansa Guru. And he began traveling here and there and everywhere through the countryside. Remember what his age is? How many? Huh? 8. Looking for a sannyas guru at 8. Anybody volunteer? 8-year-olds here want to volunteer for becoming a sannyas? So not with a danda, but with a rod, a walking staff, wearing saffron robes, he went here and there, and eventually ended up at the hermitage of the sage Govindapada. And from Govindapada, he desired to be initiated, although he already had the capacity, it was shown twice, but initiated into Brahman knowledge and mantras, etc., sannyas mantras. So it's exemplary. So when he got there to this place where Govindapada's residence was, it turned out it was a cave. And the opening of the cave was, this biblical language is a cubit. And a cubit is the distance between your elbow and the tips of your finger. So your forearm. That's how big the entrance of the cave was. I wouldn't want to live in a place like that. That Govindapada was just fine living in such a place. When he reached the place, because he heard about this Govindapada sage and sannyasi, he circumambulated the cave 3 times. He paid his obeisances several times, and he chanted the following hymn or prayer to Govindapada. And he understood Govindapada was a manifestation of Sheshanag. He understood that. So here's the prayer that's in this book. Of course, this is the English rendering of what he said. I worship you, the incarnation of the great serpent Shesha, who is the bed of Mahavishnu, an ornament of Shiva, and the one on whose head the earth with all its mountains and rivers rest. So at the bottom of the universe is Anantashesh, holding up planets, including this earth planet. You are the same sage Patanjali, a manifestation of Adishesh, whose 1,000 faces put his disciples to fright, and who thereupon assumed a gentle form with a single face. This is some history of Patanjali. You alone, as Patanjali, produced the great work on yoga, as also the commentary on the grammatical treatise of Panini. You attained the highest spiritual realization from the instruction of the great Gaudapada. Now, the biography says that Gaudapada was a disciple of Shukadev Goswami, the son of Vyas. No, it doesn't match some other things, but that's what the translation says, and I'm not going to go into, the dispute between who Gaudapada was as a disciple of Shukadev Goswami, and so many generations later, Govindaraja was his disciple. I won't go into it. If you want to go into it, another time, please. Praying to you for instruction in the truth of Brahman, I salute you, the repository of all great virtues. So his Govindapada was in Samadhi, but he heard the voice praising him, and so he came out of his Samadhi, and then he spoke, wanting to know, who are you? And Sankaracharya replied, I'm Lord Shiva. But he didn't just say, I'm Lord Shiva. He said what he's not. I am neither the earth, nor water, nor fire, nor air, nor sky, nor any of their properties. I am not the senses and the mind, even the neti. I am Shiva, the divisionless conscious essence. Divisionless essence of consciousness. So his Govindapada really liked that answer. And he confirmed, yes, indeed, you are that very Lord Shiva. And you've come to this earth in a human form, and you have some service to do. I would like to help you achieve the purpose of that service, which was make his commentaries, which he did after this sannyas initiation. So to formalize the guru-disciple relationship, he took his feet sticking out of that 1 cubit size hole of the cave and allowed his disciple Sankaracharya to worship his feet. Very kind of him. So Sankaracharya worshipped his feet. The lesson is, even if you already know, or most people think they already know, in Sankaracharya's case he already knew the meaning of the Vedas, etc. Still the formality is there, so most of us don't have that capacity that Shankara had. So the formality is to be there whether you know or you don't know. That's the lesson. In time, Govindapada gave voluminous instructions to his new sannyas student, Sankaracharya, and emphasized in this biography that he instructed him in 4 Mahavakyas. What's a Mahavakya? You've heard the term before? Have you heard the term before, Mahavakya? Vakya means speech. Mahavakya means great speech. So they're cherry-picked from the Upanishads. There are four especially well-known in the Shankara line Mahavakyas. And he's basically saying, I am God. Or the living entity and God are one. Those are the Mahavakyas. The concept is all of the other utterances or statements in the Upanishads are resting upon those four. It's something a little bit like the Chatur Sloki of the Bhagavatam. There's so many verses, and the essence of those so many verses is said in 4 verses. So if you can understand these 4 verses, you can understand the whole Bhagavatam. So Mahavakyas are said to be like that. So here they are. In case you want to become an impersonalist, here's what they are. Prajnanam Brahma. Or Brahman is pure consciousness. The other celebrated one, Aham Brahmasmi, everyone knows that one. I am Brahman. Tattvamasi, everyone knows something about that one. Thou art that. That's modern Christian language. Thou art that. I am Brahman. I am the Supreme. Thou art that. You are that. So, third person. Amyatma Brahma. Amyamatma Brahma. This Atma is Brahman. So there's the 4. And it's one of the rules of those that are becoming sannyasis in the Shankara line is they're to meditate on and come to the point of realization of these 4 because it's the essence of knowledge. Then he went through the whole Vedanta Sutra and taught Sankaracharya Vedanta Sutra as if he didn't already know it. But then the innermost, so this is Tarkya, or logic and reason, through the essence of the Vedas. Having instructed him, now we hear these details. Vyasadeva, we know this from the Puranas. Vyasadeva was the son of Parashara. Now this is the point of discrepancy. Shukadeva was the son of Vyasa, that we know. So Parashara, Vyasa, Shuka. Then it is said that Gaudapada was Shukadeva Goswami's disciples. Notice in colored letters, Madhvas don't accept that Gaudapada was Shuka's disciple. I'll say it again. Madhvas don't accept that Gaudapada was Shukadeva's disciple, because Gaudapada is the one that became the teacher of Govindaraj, who taught him personalism. But if you're a Shankar, that's what you say. Gaudapada was the disciple of Shuka, and Govindapada became the disciple of Gaudapada, and then Sankaracharya became his disciple, who learned all about Brahman from Govindapada. So there's a little discrepancy. Not only chronological, but, philosophy-wise. It doesn't take too much to figure out there's a discrepancy. But this is what they're teaching us. So this is the place where that cave was, and inside the place where the cave was is this murti of Govindapada. And at the entrance of that cave, that's Sankaracharya receiving transcendental knowledge from Govindapada. Now he's received the blessings of Govindapada, and then he does some miracles. One of the miracles, because the hermitage of Govindapada was on the bank, or near the bank of the Narmada River, so Sankaracharya is now part of his ashram, his student, and he's contemplating Atma. And it was during the rainy season, and when it was during the rainy season, according to this biography, Indra was pouting. It doesn't say it like that, but he was upset. These sannyasis, they don't do the rituals. They're denying me and the other devas of their just tribute through the performance of yajnas, and they're not doing yajnas. So I'll show them. So he rained a whole bunch. And the wind and rain, it's a little bit like, the Govardhan Leela. Rains, flooding waters, trees falling, everything being messed up because Indra was angry. And the cloudy Rakshasas of dark body, equipped with the weapon of the rainbow, this is poetic language, and fearsome with their gleaming eyes of flashing lightning and shouts of thunderous outbursts, got ready to disturb the meditative sacrifices of the sannyasis. They weren't doing the yajnas for the demigod's benefit, they were doing dhyan yajna, meditation. So with that, for days and days and days, there was rain and thunder and lightning, and everything started to become flooded. The banks of the Narmada River flooded the riverbanks. Heavy rain for days. So there's a lot of distress. So what did Sankaracharya do? He's compassionate. He did something like Agastya did. He took his kamandalu, his water pot, and hearing the cries of distress of the people, he took his little water pot and scooped up all the water. The flooded waters all somehow managed to fit into his little kamandalu. And everyone was safe now. Voila. Agastya didn't have a kamandalu, just his palm, and all the water was gone. And we heard this already. The ancestor of Ramachandra, named Sagara, he filled up the oceans again. That was the service to Samudra from last night, that was being reciprocated with. The kindness received by Samudra was reciprocated with. So here's another painting showing how he took the floodwaters and it all managed to fit into his pot. Another painting showing the same thing. The floodwaters all fit into his little pot. And everyone became happy. At least the flooding situation was now rescued. So somehow Govindapada came to know about this. And he was very pleased with his disciple. And he then gave him the mantras of sannyas. So there he is. It was part of the practice, partially immersed in the river and getting his sannyas mantras in this way. Apparently Govindapada came out of his cave to give him sannyas. Now, this was approximately 10 years old. And his guru, Govindapada, then made a suggestion. Go to Varanasi, 10-year-old boy, take a little hike, and go to Varanasi. So he went to Varanasi. The world's coming to an end. Okay. So when he reached Varanasi, he did his puja of Lord Shiva, feeling separation from Govindapada, but he has an instruction, so he went and worshipped his deity of Lord Shiva very nicely. And then a very interesting event took place. Very interesting event took place. As he was traveling in Varanasi, along with some associates and other sannyasis, he came across what was called in his biography, an outcast, a hunter with 4 dogs. And, a strict Brahmana doesn't rub shoulders with dogs and hunters. So politely, they asked the hunter, could you move to the side so we could pass? And then the hunter spoke transcendental knowledge. I'm not going to read what he said. It's in the biography, but essentially, you're not the body. You have this idea that you're Brahman, but how is it that Brahman is higher and lower? And you're thinking you're higher and I'm lower? What kind of nonsense is this? I mean, didn't use those words, but he spoke transcendental knowledge. The same knowledge that Sankaracharya was about to compose in his commentaries. And so, he already composed his commentaries. So Sankaracharya said, what you've said is true. Everything that you said is true. I accept. I've spoken incorrectly. And as soon as Sankaracharya spoke these words, Lord Shiva revealed himself that he was that hunter, so-called outcast, and the 4 dogs were the 4 Vedas. That must have been an interesting experience. And then he instructed Sankaracharya to compose teachings consistent with what Lord Shiva had said in the form of the outcast. So he's now being given a direct instruction from Lord Shiva to write these commentaries, specifically on Brahma Sutra, along the line of what he had said. Because he's got these Mahavakya teachings, and like the background, now he's being directly instructed, write these commentaries. He's following Govindapada, go to Varanasi. In Varanasi, he meets Lord Shiva in disguise. Lord Shiva gives him teachings which he accepts. Now compose commentaries in the line with these teachings. So he's in Varanasi. In each of the major ghats in Varanasi, he took his sacred bath, and then he headed for Badrinath, similar to what Madhvacharya did. And when he reached Badrinath, he began composing his commentaries, which he did from around the age of 10 to around the age of 12. He completed all these commentaries. That was pretty quick. Try writing a book. Try writing a Back to Godhead article. Try writing a Vyasa Puja offering. How long does it take? Commentary on Brahma Sutra, the Upanishad, Vishnu Sahasranam, Bhagavad Gita, and other Upadesh writings. Upadesh Sahasri. Less than 2 years. Because he was given up to 16. So now he's with Vedavyas in this upper realm. And now at 12, the commentaries are finished. Now he's starting to teach his commentaries to disciples. He's a guru at 12, not just a sannyasi. And he's teaching his commentaries at 12. Sometime, it doesn't say exactly when, in this biography, he met Vyas. Now Vyas, we heard yesterday, he's in Uttar Badri, not the place that we're going to visit when we go to Badrinath. Uttar Badri. Vyasadeva and he met. And they had some discussions. And at the end of those discussions, Vyasadeva blessed Shankara, you should live for another 8 years. He's getting life extension. Or excuse me, another 16 years. 32 total. So that he could restore faith in the Vedas that had been discarded. Vyasadeva compiled the Vedas, and somebody, Buddha, came along and discarded them. So now his mandate was to restore. That's what he did. He restored faith in the Vedas. A distorted version, yes. So now he travels. And one of the places he travels, as he's compiled, he's authorized to do so, he has compiled, he's teaching his disciples, and he went on a tour for another 16 years to spread Advaita Vedanta. And one of the places he came to was right here in Sringeri. Here's the history of how the place got the title Sringeri. Shringha Giri is the place where Rishishringa, after he did this yagya for Dasarath, he came and made this place his residence, Singha. And this is certainly a giri. It's a big, not just Giri Govardhan, it's a big mountain. And it is said in this biography that Rishishringha engaged in meditation for a long time on the Supreme Self. It's the same Putra Kameshta Yagya performer for Dasarath. And at the end of that performance, Lord Ramachandra came as the son of Dasarath. So the same Rishishringha came here. When Sankaracharya reached this place, he found several things. Those persons who inhabited this place, perhaps by the descendancy from the sage Rishishringha, but there are many, many pious people in this place. And they treated him with great respect, hospitality. They were all engaged in Vedic yagyas. He found it very inviting. And he began explaining his commentaries on Vedanta Sutra and other parts of the Vedas. And his followers in this biography say, just by hearing these narrations from Sankaracharya, one goes forward on the path of salvation. Now you read Chaitanya Charitamrita and something else happens. But this is from his biography. Then one particular thing, so he just arrived and giving some teachings, but he saw something very unusual. He saw a cobra raising its hood above a female frog or toad who was in labor pains, and he was shielding the female frog from the blazing heat of the sun. He thought, wow. For a frog, one of its natural predators is a serpent. And here in Sringeri, here's a serpent rendering service to the frog, the female frog who's in labor in this midday sun. This is a very different place. So there are different paintings showing love between even adversaries. And so he decided to make this his first mutt. And there's somewhere here, there's this sculpture of the serpent, the cobra, shielding the frog from the heat of the midday sun. Sankaracharya established a deity of Sri Sarada Devi. That's a deity of Saraswati, on top of a chakra, and this became the central deity of Sringeri Math. Now, those of you that have a reasonably good memory, you'll probably remember that part of his teachings, part of Sankaracharya's teachings, we'll hear more about it soon, this afternoon, the second session. He accepted that many people are thinking in terms of form being reality. But his teaching was the formless is reality. So how do you get to formless is reality if people have the conception of form? Answer: worship form so you can get beyond the conception of form. Called word jugglery. But that's what he did. That's what he said. And so the system was something that those of you that have read Prabhupada's books, you know, Pancha Upasana. Pancha Upasana. Upasana means worship. Pancha means 5. So there are 5 saguna deities, forms with qualities that one may worship to get to Nirguna. Saguna Brahman, to get to Nirguna Brahman, because Nirguna Brahman is reality, and anything Saguna is not reality. But it's okay. You're in illusion, so you worship any one of these 5 forms. What's the purpose? To get to beyond form. That's the purpose of worship. So there's worship. And one of the forms is indicated here at Sringeri Math. It is said that Lord Shiva gifted a Shiva Linga made of crystal. I've never seen one of those, but a Shiva Linga made of crystal was given by Sankaracharya, by Lord Shiva to Sankaracharya. And so he worshipped that crystal Shila, and to this day, the current Acharya here at Sringeri Math, every evening, 9 p.m., they worship that Shiva Linga made of crystal. And here's a photograph of one of the temples in Sringeri Math. Are we going to see this place? Yes? No? Yes. Have you seen this place already? Stay tuned. Apparently you're going to see it. So there's a temple, and many times Sankaracharya is pictured with these 4 sannyasis in front of him. One of them we heard about already, Hastamalaka Acharya. Remember that one? Hastamalaka Acharya was the one who was from the Shivali Brahmana community, and he became a disciple, a sannyas disciple of Sankaracharya. So he was one of his 4 principal sannyas disciples. And his station was in Dwaraka, etc. We heard that already. Here's these other 3 principal sannyas disciples by name. We're almost done. Remember his mother's name? Aryamba was his mother's name. So he had promised his mother that just call and I'll be there. There's songs like that, modern bebop songs. Just call and I'll be there. So she called for him because he is in Sringeri, and not around the corner, but not too far away either, was her home. And in her home, she was in her last days. So he wasn't Madhvacharya that could jump, but he transported himself by the side of his mother. And he saw his mother, despite his being a sannyasi, he had a soft heart for his mother, who he saw like a guru. And he then wanted to give her, and she wanted to receive from him transcendental teachings on impersonal Brahman. But she found it a little difficult to understand impersonal Brahman teachings. There's a nice painting. There he is as sannyasi, there's his mother on her deathbed. And he's trying to give transcendental teachings. She had a hard time with it. So instead, he recited a prayer to Vishnu, because remember, Pancha Upasana, that's no problem. He recited a prayer to Vishnu. And at the moment that she left her body, she was hearing this hymn to Lord Vishnu. According to this biography, she was able to see Lord Vishnu, which to me sounds like a contradiction, because Vishnu doesn't exist, because only one thing exists. Nirguna Brahman exists. But anyway, the biography says she saw Vishnu, and that's how she left her body. So we know what happens if you think of Vishnu at the time of death. You attain Vishnu Loka. After her demise, he's in his hometown where he grew up. He asked some neighbors to assist him with the cremation, and they wouldn't even help provide the fuel to make a fire, saying, look, you're a sannyasi, you can't do this ritual, so we're not going to help you. No problem. From the palm of his hand, he generated fire and finished the cremation without their help. That's in his biography. Now, we're almost done, because here's some paintings or photographs of the current or near current lineage. Of course, this was a little time ago. This is around the time of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, at least the latter part of Bhaktivinoda Thakur's life. Here's a painting of one of those acharyas. And overlapping is another one of the acharyas, probably in a different location. And some of them apparently are up here also. And even more recent, Chandrasekharananda Saraswati. This is from Kanchi, Shankaramat. And this is a scene of what it's like, this simple, rustic way that they would live, just anywhere at any time. Live very life of simplicity, no comforts, just very simple, renounced life. So we're going to hear a little bit more about this in the second session. It's now 11:30. What time are we supposed to end? Now. Yes? Should I take questions or just end? I'm looking for some instructions. Timekeeper, what do I do?
Questions followed by bhajan, and then next session.
I can't hear you.
Questions followed by bhajans.
Okay. So this clock says 11:25. My watch says 11:30. We'll take a little bit of time for questions. Then there's a special bhajan. Somebody knows what that special bhajan is? Are you the special bhajan person? You're the special bhajan person. And who's going to sing it? Okay. You practiced it? You good at it? That's a yes. Certified. Okay. So discussion. Go ahead.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Is this your question from last night or from this morning?
Both.
Both. Okay.
While Shankaracharya took his initiation or his sannyas initiation, why didn't his name change?
Why did they do what?
Why didn't his name change?
Why did his name change? His name didn't change. He was Adi Shankar from birth.
Why didn't it change?
Why it didn't change? Oh, he liked it, I guess. Why his name didn't change? Some people change their names. Some people don't change their names. Why? You have to ask him. He liked it, I guess. Because he's a manifestation of Lord Shiva, who is a manifestation of Shankara. Thus, Sankaracharya. Why change your name? Okay.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Yes.
Oh, there, okay.
My question was, are Shankaracharya's parents,
Speak slowly. Sankaracharya did what?
are Shankaracharya's parents impersonalists or personalists?
Oh, were his parents impersonalists? They were worshippers of Lord Shiva. His parents were worshippers of Lord Shiva. There's no indication that his parents were impersonalists. His parents were worshippers of Lord Shiva. Now, most worshippers of Lord Shiva see Lord Shiva as a devata. Most. But there's no indication that they were anything other than what most are like, a devata. They were worshiping Lord Shiva as a devata, not as a means to get to Nirguna Brahman. That was their son.
Then, Maharaj, how did Shankara...
Otherwise, why would they go to worship Lord Shiva if they were impersonalists requesting a son? It's kind of a disconnect, isn't it? Okay, Devata.
Yes, Maharaj, but how did Shankaracharya go into impersonalists?
Help.
How did Shankaracharya become an impersonalist?
How did he explain it? How he became. That was his mandate. What was his mandate? His mandate was two things. One, restore faith in the Vedas. Two, bewilder the minds of people who don't have a proper understanding, bewilder their minds. That's how. He did what he was supposed to do. Da 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 da. He did to fulfill an instruction. And he did it very, very cleverly. And his followers were also very clever. They just added nice language and prettied it up a little bit. My understanding is he didn't use the word Mayavada. That came later. His word was mithya. Mithya means false. So form is false, mithya. Brahman is truth. Brahman Satya Jagat Mithya. That's his writing. We saw it. We're going to see it again this second session. So Mayavada came later. That terminology that we use all the time. It wasn't his. Mithya was his. So then what's mithya? That's a nice question. We'll talk about it in the second session.
Okay, Maharaj. Thank you, Maharaj. But I had a second question.
So third question.
Yeah.
Okay, that's okay.
Like from before, like yesterday's class,
Okay.
even though Hanuman was cursed, and before he was reminded by Jambavan that he had powers,
Yes, yes.
how did he change his avatar and go to Rama to receive him?
You spoke real fast. Say it again. What was she saying? Yeah.
But then how he could go to Ram?
Oh, because he remembered. The sages said, you'll forget. Now he's service-minded, at heart of hearts. He eternally, he's a servant of Ram. And there's a service needed for Ram. But how to do it? Because he forgot his powers. So the service to Ram part didn't change. Just the, the ability to do it, to do the service for Ram, because he had powers. When Jambavan reminded him, who can jump? And the different Vanaras said, I can jump X, and some said 3X, some said 5X, but it wasn't enough. Jambavan could do it, but he was being silent because he forgot his powers. But he's a servant of Ram. He was a servant of Ram from the moment he met Ram. Isn't it?
Yes, Maharaj.
As soon as he met Ram, he was sent as a messenger on behalf of Sugriva. Go check them out. Are they friend or foe? He didn't even have to ask any questions. He intuitively understood. And he disclosed himself. I'm a messenger of Sugriva. I've come here to check you out. You're definitely trustworthy. And he offered obeisances. So he's a Ram Bhakta, but he forgot all of his powers. Some of his powers, he carried them up the mountain, but all of his powers he hadn't remembered. So Ram Bhakti was already there. Jambavan just reminded him of his powers. Ram, hey Hanuman, you can do it. Okay?
Thank you, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Whenever we hear about Sankaracharya, we hear that it was the reason because Buddhism was there. So he was there to establish the Vedas, and then slowly the ship turned. But in many countries, where Buddhism is prevalent, Srila Prabhupada's disciples and their disciples have been able to transform those Buddhists into Krishna conscious Vaishnavas.
Speak slowly, please. Be kind upon me.
Sorry, brothers. So in Buddhist countries,
He's a yogi. He can control his senses, including his speech. Watch.
in Buddhist countries, Srila Prabhupada's disciples,
Slowly.
Srila Prabhupada's disciples,
Yes.
and their disciples
Yes.
have been able to transform Buddhists into Vaishnavas.
Sometimes. Sometimes not. Correct?
Yes.
Okay. So now?
So, was it really necessary? Well,
Slowly. I'm training him. He's a good student and a yogi, both.
So, was it absolutely necessary to create such a confusing philosophy,
Just to create just a what?
confusing, bewildering philosophy?
Oh, was it necessary? He was his instruction to do so. No, was it necessary? It was his instruction to do so.
Okay.
He gave some service for Madhvacharya and the other Vaishnava acharyas who came after him to take the foundation of the Vedas, having faith, and built Vaishnavism, restored Vaishnavism in different structures of restoring Vaishnavism. But this is Kali Yuga. Let's go back. I don't know if you attended the earlier classes, but there was this animat from Madhvacharya's biography and the followers. They were persons that were opposed to Krishna and opposed to Bhima, and they wanted to get back because the Vedas extol Krishna. So one of the ways to get back, because they couldn't physically defeat Bhima or Krishna, is to bewilder people, to take the ideas of the Vedas that teach Krishna is the object and goal of the Vedas and bewilder them. Because Shankara had already established faith in the Vedas. Excuse me. Yeah, that was a step to bewilder them so that would take them away from Krishna. So he was the deputed one. We heard that. Shankara was approached.
I have a part two.
Part two.
Does-
Slowly.
Does every Kali Yuga Mayavada philosophy get propagated?
Well, Advaita philosophy gets propagated, yes. It's a part of the brand of Kali Yuga. Now, the shape that it takes, who does what, and how they do it, there can be different varieties on the theme of Kali Yuga bewildering, because that's what Kali Yuga does. It's a symptom. Manda samanda matayo, manda bhagya. This is a symptom. He wants to give the microphone. I see a couple of hands back here on the lady. You have something? Okay.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. My question is from yesterday's class. I think we heard that the obstructions which were faced by Hanuman, the second obstruction was Surasa. And in the slide, I think you mentioned that Indra sent Surasa to check the competence of Hanuman.
To check or to have him display. Not like, does he have it or not? But they wanted to see him display his competence. Character first, competence next, because he's going to meet many challenges. Let's see how he's going to meet those even more fierce challenges coming up. That's the understanding I have, at least.
That was my question, because the boons itself was given by Indra and
Yes.
Shiva and others.
Yes,
So,
and the sages, etc.
yeah. So just to display that.
Yes,
Okay. That was it. Thank you.
not to trick him,
Yeah.
but they wanted, this is my understanding. They knew he would meet, and he did, very formidable challenges. Let's see if he's going to be able to meet those formidable challenges. Let us have him display his prowess and intelligence both to meet formidable challenges. That was the purpose. So yes, that was the purpose, and those are the instruments, Indra, etc., Devas,
Yeah.
Rishis.
Thank you. And I am curious to hear about Nirguna Brahman, because Prabhupada says that Nirguna Brahman doesn't mean without qualities. It means above the modes.
Yes, but if you're a Shankara follower, you take it differently than what Prabhupada said. So the Vedas speak of Brahman not having qualities. That's a true statement. The Vedas speak that. So what does it mean? If you're a Vaishnava, this is what it means. If you're a Shankara follower, that's what it means. And they disagree.
So how should we understand the first verse 5.5.2 related to Mahaprabhu's philosophy, where impersonalists have also been called as offenders?
Yes.
So then,
That's a nice question. That's part 2 of this session while we're here at Sringeri Math, but a little synopsis, because we could hear it 10 times, and it may take a while for even hearing it 10 times to go in. But here's synopsis, part 1. The commonality is leave to the side the fascination that conditioned souls have that brings them to this material condition is wanting to be the enjoyer of Prakriti. So that's a commonality. Then if you leave aside Prakriti, what's left? There's where the differences are. So what's the conception of Brahman? Therein lies the difference. So one idea is, according to certain Mahavakyas of the Upanishads, and then all the Upanishads will say what these Mahavakyas say, is that Brahman is without qualities. Period. And Brahman is the absolute truth. And that's it. And there's nothing else. All there is Brahman. So that's a rendering of Nirguna Brahman. And Nirguna Brahman means the absolute truth without qualities. And then comes the Vaishnava understanding, chronologically comes later, but it's not, absolutely it comes later. It's just a more mature, developed understanding of what is the meaning, is there's no material qualities in Brahman, but there are spiritual qualities. And that's what's called, we're going to see it this afternoon, there are attributes. It's one of the 9 pillars of Madhvacharya's teachings, and it's in the teachings of Lord Chaitanya as well, or in the teachings of Ramanuja as well. Vashishta Advaita. You're familiar with that? That's Ramanuja's teachings. The absolute truth is Advaita that has Vashishtas, or attributes, or qualities. Vashishta Advaita. If you're Shankara, no Vashishtas, no attributes, just a smoothie. No qualities, no characteristics. Undifferentiated Brahman, exclamation point, period. That's the meaning. Ramanuja, that's not the meaning. There's Brahman with attributes. Madhva. There's one supreme, independent, and everything else, matter and spirit, separate from the supreme. They're separate entities that are real. The living entities are real, Prakriti is real. The attributes of Brahman are also real. So it becomes, this is teaching Panchabheda. So this is getting into philosophy, and you like philosophy. I think that's what your question is. Have I answered your question? There are different perspectives on the Sanskrit phrase. Nirguna Brahman, Brahman without qualities. Some read it looking through this lens, this is what it says. Looking through that lens, that's what it says. Looking through another lens, something else is what it says. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's is the attributes of Brahman are absolute, and everything else is simultaneously one with and different from that absolute truth that has attributes. That's different than what Madhva says. There's not a oneness and difference, it's just difference. And then there's a whole picture of reality that is consistent with that tenet. Panchapeda. Mahaprabhu's is Achintya, Beda Abeda. His is Panchapeda. Tattvas that are distinct from one another. Exclamation point. And everything is explained through that lens. Everything. So, does that answer your question?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the second session.
You mull it over. If you have further questions, save
No.
it. Okay, one of these days, one of these days we'll just have questions and answers. There's going to be kids in a playground. You can ask anything about anything, and I'm sure anything will come up. But this afternoon, we're going to focus more on the similarities and distinctions, Shankara's teachings and bhakti teachings. Not this brand of bhakti or that brand of bhakti, but categorically bhakti versus non-dual Brahman.
Thank you.
This afternoon. Going in steps, little steps. Someone else? I see a few hands.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj.
Go ahead.
Sankaracharya wrote Bhaja Govindam song. He also wrote Gita Mahatmya. And we Vaishnavas consider them very authentic. This is a very, we praise those songs. How do followers of Sankaracharya accept those compositions of Sankaracharya?
How do Vaishnavas?
How do followers of Sankaracharya,
Say it again slower. How do what?
how do they process?
How do we process?
No, how do the followers of Sankaracharya?
Oh, no problem. Behind Saguna is Nirguna. The purpose of Saguna is to reach Nirguna. No problem. He taught Saguna in its mature stage, one may become qualified to realize the Nirguna feature. That's how. Piece of cake.
Enormous world jugglery that.
What?
World jugglery that means.
Can you turn the speaker so I can hear him? Say it again now.
World jugglery that means of not accepting what he is saying basically in those songs.
Well, they understand that he did both things. He taught. We'll go into it in more detail. You're in 301 and we're still in 101. But we'll go into it in more detail. But he taught both. For those people that are neophyte, they need some saguna stuff. So he did some saguna stuff and encouraged it. But for what purpose? Go beyond saguna. That's the graduates. And the graduate message was there even for undergraduates, they just hadn't yet realized it. But so, Bhaja Govinda.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Good.
We have somebody, you do yours, and next in the front row.
Guru Maharaj, this is from yesterday's class. You're talking about duty and gratitude.
Duty, speak slowly. Duty and what?
Duty and gratitude. Hanuman.
Duty and love.
Yeah.
Duty and love, because gratitude could be from either position.
Yeah. So that's what I was. Can you speak more about it? Is it that when in the initial stages, gratitude is expressed as a
Yeah,
offering of duty.
of course.
And then as we
Yes.
mature, it is.
You've understood it. You just gave the answer to your question.
Thank you, Maharaj.
No, you have a son. A few. So you have a son, and you do something nice, and he may smile and say, thank you. And that's gratitude. It's just, it's culture. But love is not just nice. It's more than that. Okay. Front.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj.
Go ahead.
I have a question on 4 Mahavakya.
Okay, slowly. Yes.
Okay. Second Mahavakya is I am Brahman.
Aham Brahmasmi.
Aham Brahmasmi.
Yes.
And the fourth one is this Atman is Brahman.
You want to know what's the difference between the two?
Yeah, I think both are.
They're pretty
identical.
close. It's Mahavakya, so it's intended to be very close. Now, I'm not a scholar of the Mahavakyas, so I'm the wrong person to ask that question.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj.
And I don't know who to refer you to, so you can get a refined answer to what's the difference between Mahavakya number 2 and number 4. I'm sure there are scholars that can help you with that, but I'm not that scholar. They're close. Okay?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, I heard Brahmavadis are genuine spiritualists, whereas Mayavadis are the offenders, envious. So Sankaracharya,
You want to know what the difference between the two is? That's where this question is?
Sankaracharya, this one,
Speak slowly.
I want to understand if Sankaracharya propagated Brahmavadi or Mayavadi.
You're asking what's the difference. That's not what you're asking. What are you asking?
What is the,
Oh, which of the two is he? Well, his followers, I mentioned this. My understanding is Advaita Gyan, the non-dual Brahman, is his teaching. Nirguna Brahman, absolute truth, is without qualities. That's Advaita Gyan in his doctrine. My understanding is, following him, this term Mayavad, just like the term Achinta Beta Beta Tattva, was not coined by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It was coined, my understanding is, it was coined by Jiva Goswami to illuminate what Lord Chaitanya's teachings are. There's a simultaneous difference, non-difference. Similarly, the Mayavada terminology came later from his followers who are addressing the question. I already spoke on this, but addressing the question, what about qualities? Now, Shankara's teachings was not Mayavad. Shankara's teachings they're false. Brahman Satya Jagat Mithya. They're false. That was his teaching. So my understanding in response to your question is, he was teaching impersonalism or Advaita Gyan. The absolute is without personality, without form, without qualities. Impersonalism. And later the term came Mayavad. So what's the form of Krishna? It's Maya. What's the form of anything? It's Maya. His teaching was it's false. Now there's some dissimilarity and some similarity. But his teaching was Advaita or Advaya Gyan, knowledge of the one absolute supreme. Does that help you?
Thank you much.
I see a hand way in the back. I see a hand halfway in the front. I see a hand in the middle. I think we'll take those 3 questions and we're going to end there. It's 12 o'clock.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. So when
Slowly.
Madhvacharya was contemplating on
Slowly
taking,
and clearly. I can't understand what you're saying.
when Madhvacharya was contemplating on taking initiation, one of his concern was that in the Vaishnava community, there is this contamination of Mayavad. And so he takes initiation and then he propounds the Siddhanta because he was the empowered personality. So my question here is, how did what was that? He saw the thing as it is, and then he also had to understand what is like here we see in Sankaracharya, he had the 4 Mahavakyas. He also had to establish a founding principle of the parampara.
Hold the microphone a little further away.
Okay.
Because I'm getting blasted with the sound.
Okay.
Thanks.
So he had to establish the founding principle of the parampara, the one.
Yes. Yes, he did.
So where does he get this inspiration from?
Where does he get his inspiration from?
Yes.
Madhva?
Yes.
You want to know where Madhva gets his inspiration from? Where does anybody get their inspiration from? Same place. What's that same place? Super soul. And he, Madhva, was instructed by Narayana to appear on earth in a human form and restore the proper understanding of the Vedas. So where did the inspiration come from? Narayana. And then in turn, super soul for the details and details. But the super instruction and the details from super soul. That's where he got the inspiration from. And he did a good job. Someone else way in the back. Go ahead, Mataji.
Maharaj, my question is regarding Vaishnav Tilak.
What? Vaishnav Tilak.
Maharaj, is it okay if we don't put tilak when we go to temple or festival?
Is it okay?
To don't put tilak when we go to temple or festivals? Or
Why would you want to go to a temple without tilak? What would be the reason for that?
Maharaj, most of the time getting late and I don't feel much inspiration to put tilak.
Yes, okay. Look, how many people, the answer is many. How many people come to a temple and don't wear tilak? Millions. Is it okay? Of course it's okay. Now, then there's you. And you understand the meaning of tilak. So supposing you don't feel like it, it's okay. You don't get spanked. You don't get some penalty points on your report card or something like that. But the purpose of doing anything for a Vaishnava is what? The purpose is pleasing Krishna. So take that as a reason to do as opposed to, I don't feel like it. At least move in that direction. You put on tilak not for your beauty or glorification or satisfaction or anything. This is pleasing to Krishna. when Krishna sees his devotee, you're a devotee, you come before Krishna and you want to see Krishna smile. So wear tilak for that reason. And if you don't feel like it, it's okay. But progressively, the more you feel my life is meant to please Krishna, then these little things I like, I don't like, it's inconsequential. It's totally, literally unimportant. It's important for a Vaishnava to want to please Krishna. So we do that which is pleasing, and we avoid that which is not pleasing. Sarva vidi niseda shur etayor eva kinkra. You know the verse, we recited it yesterday evening. Remember the verse? I'll say it again. Those who know the verse can say it with me. How does it begin? Satatam Vishnu Smartavya Satatam Vishnu Vismartavya Nujatachit. Sarvavidi, vidi means rules and regulations. Sarvavidi Nisedha Shur Etayor Eva Kinkara. Smartavya means remember. Satatam Vishnu, always remember Vishnu. Never forget Vishnu. That principle, always remember Krishna, never forget Krishna or Vishnu, is all vidhis are kinkaras of that principle. So mold your life in that direction. Is it okay if you don't? Yeah. Mold your life in that direction. Is that okay? You look happy. That's good. There was one more. Well, where was the one more? Okay, last one. You have the honor of the last one.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Slowly.
Question from yesterday's class.
Yeah.
So you mentioned while Madhvacharya was returning from Badri,
Yeah.
he met Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
Yeah, I mentioned. Well, in a dream. In a dream.
What was the conversation like? And where
The
it is
conversation was, I know that you are very devoted to me. I give you the blessing that your teachings will spread far and wide. In fact, I will receive Diksha in your line. And then the second part was, Madhva then in his dream said to Lord Chaitanya, when will I see this form of yours again? No, he disappeared. And then a voice came in his dream saying, soon you will see me again. Like that. Is that okay? Srila Prabhupada ki? Okay.
Hare Krishna. We request all devotees to be seated. We heard from Maharaj about Sripada Adi Sankaracharya. Next session will be on comparing the Advaita principle which Sankaracharya spoke about with bhakti. And who gave us that bhakti? That was given to us by the Herculean efforts of Srila Prabhupada. We will all now be singing this song composed by Srila Prabhupada when he was aboard the Jaluduta. And in this song, he is explaining about the magnanimity and the greatness of his own spiritual master, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And Srila Prabhupada is writing here, Krishna tava punya habe bhai, And then he says, when Lord Krishna will bestow virtue upon you, but first Srimati Radharani has to bestow that virtue. That's the first point to be understood. Between Advaita and Bhakti, we depend on the mercy of Radharani. And further, Srila Prabhupada writes that Sri Siddhanta Saraswati, his spiritual master, there is no Krishna Seva Jara Tulanai. There is nobody who has rendered service like him. And then he also says, he's a Mohanta Guru. Mohanta is a Bengali word for Mahatma. And that's the word Maharaj used from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 5, text number 2, that he is a Mahatma. Srila Prabhupada is calling his Guru as Mahatma. Why? He's saying, Jagat Tera Made Uru. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur had once said, this world is not a fit place for a gentleman. And only a Mahatma can come to this place which is not fit for a gentleman for the welfare of everybody. That is how Srila Prabhupada was treating his own Guru. So these and other verses, you can go through the meanings, and in that mood, let us sing and be ready so that we can hear the next part. Okay, thank you. Hare.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Krishna taba punya habe bhai, he punya koribe jabe, Radha Rani khushi habe, ध्रुवाती बोली तो माता, ध्रुवाती बोली तो माता, कृष्णा ताबा पुण्या हबे भाई, ये पुण्य करिबे जाबे, राधा रानी खुशी हाभे, ध्रुवाती बोली तो माता, ध्रुवाती बोली तो माता। श्री सिद्धांत सरस्वती सची सुता प्रियाति, कृष्ण सेवा जरा तुलना, श्री सिद्धांत सरस्वती शची सुता प्रियाति, कृष्ण सेवा जरा तुलना, से मोहंता गुरु जगत तेरा माधे उरु, कृष्ण भक्ति दे थाय था, कृष्ण भक्ति मोहंता गुरु जगत तेरा माधे उरु, कृष्ण भक्ति दे थाय था, कृष्ण भक्ति दे थाय था, कृष्ण भक्ति दे थाय था। तारा इच्छा बलवाना पास्यते ते थाना थाना, होई जाते गौरांगे रना, तारा इच्छा बलवाना पास्यते ते थाना थाना, होई जाते गौरांगे रना, पृथ्वी ते नागरादी समुद्र नद नदी, सकले बोले कृष्ण राम, पृथ्वी ते नागरादी समुद्र नद नदी, सकले बोले कृष्ण राम, सकले बोले कृष्ण राम, वैष्णवेरा इच्छा पूर्ण हो, वैष्णवेरा इच्छा पूर्ण हो। कृष्णा तबा पुण्य हबे भाई, के पुण्य करिबे जाबे राधा रानी खुशी हबे। ध्रुवाती बोली तो माता, ध्रुवाती बोली तो माता। कृष्ण तबा पुण्य हबे भाई, ए पुण्य करिबे जाबे राधा रानी खुशी हबे। ध्रुवाती बोली तो माता, ध्रुवाती बोली तो माता। से कर्जा जे करिबारे आज्ञा जादी दिलो मोरे, যোগ্য নাহি আতি দিনহি। से कर्जा जे करिबारे आज्ञा जदि दिल मोरे, योग्य नाही अति दिनहि। তাই সে তোমারা কৃপা মাগিতেছি অনুরূপা, আজি তুমি সবার প্রবীণা। তাই সে তোমারা কৃপা মাগিতেছি অনুরূপা, আজি তোমার সবার প্রবীণা, আজি তোমার সবার প্রবীণা। কৃষ্ণ তবা পুণ্য হবে ভাই, এ পুণ্য করিবে যাবে রাধা রানী খুশি হবে। ধ্রুবাতি বলি তো মাতা, ধ্রুবাতি বলি তো মাতা। পুণ্য হবে ভাই, এ পুণ্য করিবে যাবে রাধা রানী খুশি হবে। ধ্রুবাতি বলি তো মাতা, ধ্রুবাতি বলি তো মাতা। তোমার সে শক্তি পেলে গুরু সেবায়, वस्तु मिले गुरु सेवा, वस्तु मिले जीवन सार्थक जदि हो। तुम्हारा से शक्ति पेले गुरु सेवाय, वस्तु मिले जीवन सार्थक जदि हो। से सेवा पहले ताहले सुखी हले, तब संग भाग्य ते मिलो। से सेवा पाइले ताहले सुखी हले, तब संग भाग्य ते मिलो, तब संग भाग्य ते मिलो, तब संग भाग्य ते मिलो। एवं जन्म निपतितं प्रभवाहि कूपे, कामाभिकाममनुया प्रपतान् प्रसङ्गान्, कृत्वात्मसात् सुरक्षेण भगवान् गृहीता। सोऽहं कथं नु विसृजे तव भृत्य सेवाम्। एवं जनं निपतितं प्रभवाहि कूपे, कामाभिकाममनुया प्रपतन् प्रसङ्गा, कृत्वात्मसात् सुरशीर्न भगवान् गृहीता। सोऽहं कथं नु विसृजे तव भृत्य सेवा। তুমি মোর চিরা সাথী, বলিয়া মায়ার লাথি, খাইয়াছি জন্ম জন্মান্তরে। তুমি মোর চিরা সাথী, ভুলিয়া মায়ার লাঠি, খাইয়াছি জন্ম জন্মান্তরে। আজি পুনঃ
তবে পারি তুমি মিলিবারে
তবে পারি তুমে মিলিবারে
তবে পারি তুমি মিলিবারে
তোমারা মিলনে ভাইয়া বসে সুখ পায় গোচরণে ঘুরি দিন ভোর
তোমারা মিলনে ভাই আবার সে সুখ পায় গোচরণে ঘুরি দিন ভোর
কাটবানে ছুটা ছুটি বানে খাই লুটা লুটি সেই দিন কবে হবে মোর
কতবানে ছুটা ছুটি বানে খায় লুটা লুটি সেই দিন কবে হবে মোর সেই দিন কবে হবে মোর সেই দিন কবে হবে মোর
সেই দিন কবে হবে মোর
সেই দিন কবে হবে মোর
আজি সে সুবিধা হাল তোমার স্মরণ ভেলা
बड़ आशा दाखिला माता आजी से सुविधा हाला तुम्हारा स्मरण भेला बड़ आशा दाखिला माता
আমি তোমার নিত্য দাস তাই করিয়ে তো আস তুমি বিনা অন্য গতি নাই
আমি তোমার নিত্য দাস তাই করিয়ে তাস তুমি বিনা অন্য গতি নাই
তুমি বিনা অন্য গতি নাই
তুমি বিনা অন্য গতি নাই
কৃষ্ণ তব পুণ্য হবে ভাই এ পুণ্য করিবে যাবে রাধা রানী খুশি হবে ধ্রুবাতি বলি তোমার তাই ধ্রুবাতি বলি তোমার তাই
কৃষ্ণ তব পুণ্য হবে ভাই এ পুণ্য করিবে যাবে রাধা রানী খুশি হবে ধ্রুবাতি বলি তোমাতা ধ্রুবাতি বলি তোমাতা
ধ্রুবাতি বলি তোমার তাই হরে কৃষ্ণ 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 হরে 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 রাম 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 হরে হরে
हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण